What's up, my fellow emo, pop punk, metalcore music lovers? Matrix here, and you're locked into the Matrix Music Review Podcast, the only place to get your alt-rock music scene fix. We are here today with a very short episode, but I felt like it was necessary to keep on top of things and make sure we don't get overwhelmed this year, and so that we can keep putting out content for everybody. We got one album review to talk about, and then I want to just talk about some of the more unfortunate things that have happened in the scene over the past week or so, in terms of we had a couple bands just go on hiatus, disband. We've had members of bands leaving, and this is something that happens all the time, but these are some pretty big names that are leaving bands, so it's definitely something worth noting and something I need to talk about. So, as always, all the links for everything for me is in the description of this episode. Instagram, TikTok for now, and Twitter are all at Matrix Music Review. You can find me over there. I'm the most active on Instagram. Head on over to Spotify and add this playlist to your library. Control-Alt-Save 25. That is where you can stay up to date on all the songs that I've been listening to and all the songs you need to check out for the alternative music scene for the year 2025. If you are listening on Apple Music or Spotify, leave a 5-star review, leave me a comment, let me know how I'm doing. And make sure you head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Right now, it is just the audio versions of these podcasts, but in the future, there may be some video content coming soon. So with that, let's jump into our review, which is Toy by Dear Seattle. So this is the third album from the Australian band, and first of all, I love their bio on Spotify. Boogie boards and power chords. Simple, effective, and it gets you to the point. And I think that's really kind of something that describes Dear Seattle in general, is they're simple, effective, they're right down to the point, and it's just easy. When I was trying to think about what style Dear Seattle is, the first words that came to mind were they are emo, easy listening. And it's just one of those situations where you kind of have that emo nature in the lyrics and even in some of the music, but it makes it very easy to listen to. To me, it's definitely for fans of All American Rejects or Taking Back Sunday or Mayday Parade, along those lines. But it's newer, it's fresher, it has this unique sound on it, especially with some of the vocal deliveries on this album. And it's a band that just, again, has continued to rise up my radar and rise on the list of bands that I'm really excited to hopefully get a chance to see this year in concert. So this band starts off kind of showing off their lyricism right away with Nothing Stopping Me Now. And it really goes into this second verse, which is what I'm going to talk about, where it is, they talk about how you have tired eyes above your vacant smile and you're hiding a brain that stopped running. And I talk about this a lot, where it's nothing new necessarily that we haven't heard before, but it's portrayed and delivered in a way that makes it just unique enough that it feels fresh, it feels different, it feels new. And that's exactly what this particular thing is. We've always heard songs talking about how, you know, there's nothing behind the eyes and, you know, this is just a fake smile and there's nothing going on in your head. But we don't always hear that it's tired eyes, vacant smile, hiding a brain that stopped running. It's something different. It's something new. And that's what really helps catapult this into something that doesn't fall flat. And I think that is a theme of some of the newer bands and why people may say that, you know, they can't listen to some of the new stuff, or they feel like they don't want to listen to any of the new stuff because they feel like it's going to fall flat. They feel like these same pop punk bands, these same bands are listening to and playing the same exact shit that they've been playing for the past 20 years. And I'm tired of hearing about, you know, fighting for a girl, or this girl broke my heart and now I'm so emotional and I'm so torn and all this other bullshit. It's not the same. Give it a listen, especially a song like this, and you'll see that, yeah, it's kind of the same theme or the same idea, but it's not presented in the same way as a song has been maybe 15 years ago. Seeing as I've heard 6 or so of the tracks on here before this album was released, I wasn't sure how it was going to be flow-wise, but it flows extremely well. The first song I talked about was Nothing Is Stopping Me Now, and it goes right into Promise, which ends up being one of my favorites off of this album, if not my favorite. And this is all about that album composition thing that I talk about a lot. How does the album flow? Does it make sense? Does it tell a story? And I feel like in this sense, Dear Seattle is telling us, okay, you went from a guy that is kind of kicking the demons of a relationship and nothing's stopping me now. And then you move on to being part of the problem and vowing to make it right. And really almost just reversing course. It's kind of like if you break up and you say, not going back to that, nothing's going to stop me. I've got this fresh new take. And then immediately you're back promising that I'm going to be better and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then it flows right into a song of Courtney Love, which is really kind of just a moving on and letting go song. So you kind of have that like bouncing back and forth, but this is also kind of the natural bounce back and forth when you go through a breakup or you may be in a potential toxic situation. So this is not something that's uncommon. And I think it's really smart to kind of pair 3 songs like this together to kind of put the point across that, hey, it's not always going to be, yep, immediately I'm moving on and nothing's stopping me now. Sometimes it's going to be, yeah, nothing's stopping me now, but before I get there, I promise to do better and I promise to make things right. But never mind, I'm still moving on. I mentioned at the beginning of that little rant that we had a string of really successful singles, and I was a huge fan of Sungazer last year. I was a huge fan of IDC, and it really set the stage for this album to be one of those that I anticipated without even knowing that I was anticipating it. When I was looking at, what bands, what albums are potentially going to drop this year, this was not necessarily something that I thought about, but it was something that when I saw the album pop in my inbox, I was like, oh shit, I 100% am excited about this. I totally forgot that this was a band that's going to do that. And that string of singles was so good and it led to that anticipation. And I think there's something to be said about this Australian pop punk scene. We have a lot of different areas throughout this world that have their own pop punk scenes. I think we've seen a lot of it in Canada. We've seen it obviously in Britain, and we've seen it in Germany a little bit. And Australia has a pretty massive scene. And I'm noticing that the bands that come out of Australia end up having this infectious, energetic sound that's really hard to ignore. You get it with a band like Dear Seattle. You get it with Between You and Me. It's not just one thing. It's a combination of things that leads to this infectious sound. And these songs become so ingrained in your head that you find yourself just singing them over and over and over again. Even in a 13, 14 song album like this was, it's incredible. And it's not just all up-tempo songs either. There's the ability of a band like Dear Seattle to slow it down a little bit, like in a song Counting Hours, or even We Were So Close. They're not slowed down a ton, but they're slowed down enough where it definitely makes you take a step back. And We Were So Close is definitely one that has a little bit of an edge because, yeah, we're talking about how it's not just being a ghost, but with all of the energetic, emphatic fucking in it, and I don't know how to say that, but when you listen to the song, it's not just We Were So Close, it was We Were So fucking close. And it's the emphatic nature of that word that makes it so necessary to make a point. Sometimes you can get this want or this desire to use words like that to just try and, be a SpongeBob episode and have a sentence enhancer. But in this case, it's not trying to be something that's not. The emotion is needed to be able to put that punch behind it and make you really feel what they're trying to get across here. And there's a line, I think it's in IDC, that just, again, just shows the creativity. It talks about taking a gap year in Russia because you want to fight a bear. And it's just one of those things that, again, you don't hear these like realistic scenarios. Now, granted, I don't think anybody is saying that I just want to take a gap year in Russia because I want to go fight a bear, but it's a story that you could see being a reality. It's something that you could see happening and somebody wanting to talk about. And so for our Dear Seattle album, as I said, I consider this emo easy listening. And when you think about what that may be or what that may mean, I think emo easy listening has to be simple but effective. It has to be gritty but reserved and have a great catchy chorus. And I think all three missions were accomplished on this album from Dear Seattle. It has definitely been one that's very easy for me to throw on repeat. It's been easy for me to listen to. This is one that you do have the ability to shuffle a lot of the different tracks. You don't have to listen to it all in a row, which sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't. It depends on kind of the album feel for me. And on this one, I'm totally okay with flipping through and just being like, you know what? Yep, I just want to put it on shuffle and listen to all the different songs. There's not a bad one on here. So when we look at this, I think we're looking at a 9.3, 9.4 rating out of 10 here for this Dear Seattle album. I'm really excited to see what pop punk does this year. I think we're set up for a pretty big explosion again, just with the initial wave of goodness that we've gotten from Good Hangs, that we've gotten from Dear Seattle. The new Mayday Parade song is a banger. Like, we're setting ourselves up for another great pop punk year like we had back in 2023, and I can't wait to see it. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go check out Toy by Dear Seattle. That was our only review today, but as I mentioned at the top, we got to talk about some of these bands and some of these departures. So let's start off with Cemetery Sun announcing that they are going to be disbanding after 10 years. A little unfortunate. I definitely liked Cemetery Sun. I was excited to see what they had coming around the corner, but it sounds like they're all going in different directions. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for what those individual members do, whether it's solo stuff or new projects. Always happy to support bands and band members, especially when we have a disbanding and all these people go in different directions. Additionally, one of my favorite bands, Between You and Me, one of those Aussie scene bands, is going on a hiatus, taking a break. Not really sure what they're calling it. They're not really sure what they're calling it, but for right now, we will not be hearing any more from Between You and Me. I am super stoked that I was able to catch them this past year in concert, since this is kind of potentially it for them. I think they are a band that has so much potential, and I hope that they do end up coming back, and maybe they just need a pretty good reset here. But if this is it for Between You and Me, we definitely got a killer EP with Shit Yeah last year to kind of send them off, and they went out with a US tour, an Australian tour, and I wish those guys nothing but the best. They were pretty cool to see in concert, and I was able to talk to them for a little bit. So really cool guys in Between You and Me. I wish them nothing but the best. We also had two band members leave. And the first band member I want to talk about is Connie Scarbosa from See You Space Cowboy. Obviously, you know, See You Space Cowboy was a huge riser on my list last year, had one of my top albums of the year. So to hear that a vocalist is leaving a band like that is always striking. I will not go into the details. If you want to look into why Connie has decided to split from the band, head on over to Instagram. You will see all of the posts there about what's going on and why Connie feels that See You Space Cowboy is not the correct choice anymore. And all we can do is respect Connie's wishes here and respect what Connie feels and all those different things. So this is really difficult for all parties involved, and all I can say is that I'm looking forward to seeing what she does in the future and see what potential new projects there are and what potential there is for both Connie as well as See You Space Cowboy to see what's going on with all of that. So That one's a little bit of a disappointment. And then additionally, we lost the drummer from Taking Back Sunday. So Mark O'Connell has announced that he is no longer with the band after 26 years. And whenever you hear something like that, immediately you have to try to figure out what's going on, because how could somebody leave a band after that long? And it sounds like, from Mark's point of view, that there was a lack of support with things and that there was just not enough there to support him during some difficult times. And so he's decided to pursue separate endeavors, solo adventures, and potentially other music with other friends, is what he has said. And so this is a difficult time. We've lost two really strong musicians, two really strong artists from two bands that are really extremely popular in the scene, one of them being a giant in the scene for the past 20 plus years. So it's always hard when you hear that band members are not going to be a part of the band anymore. And I just ask that everybody respect these people's wishes and these people's desires and these people's decisions, because at the end of the day, we do not know everything. We do not know all of the backstory, all of the different things that these people have went through. So it's not our place to ridicule or criticize or any of that piece. Our job is to support everybody in the best way that we can. So difficult times all around with those departures and with those bands going on hiatus or disbanding. I felt the need that I had to at least touch on it. That way, if you hadn't heard about it, you at least know. And hopefully we'll still hear from these artists in the future. And that wraps it up for us here this week. I told you it was going to be a short episode, but I also promised to get you guys out some more content on a weekly basis. So trying to keep that up for you guys. So as always, go follow on all of our social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Matrix Music Review. Go head on over to Spotify and follow the Control-Alt-Save 25 playlist that's there. If you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing. Head on over to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel to get some subscribers going over there. And the last thing I'll leave you with is that we very shortly will have a brand new logo and a brand new face of Matrix Music Review. This is something I've been working on for a long time now to be able to get some brand recognition out there. And I hope that you guys enjoy this new logo. We're going to get some stickers printed. We're going to get some other stuff out there so that when I'm out at shows and maybe you see me at a show, I can hand you a sticker so you can add that to your collection. And we can continue to grow our community of alt-rock music lovers. With that, I'm out of here. I will see you guys next time with more reviews and more good music.